Hello and welcome to XR Trends. My name's David Dungay. XR Trends is the place where we talk to the most innovative companies in the XR space. Today I'm talking to Thomas Dexmier, AVP Enterprise Solutions and Technology at EMEA and HTC VIVE. Let's get that right. Welcome to the show, Thomas. How are you?
Good afternoon, David. Yeah, very good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you, Thomas. I'm really excited for today's conversation. We're going to be talking about bridging workflows with XR and how companies can adopt VR technology appropriately. But Thomas, before we get into that conversation, do you want to give us a really quick introduction to yourself and the business?
Yes, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to be on the show today. So my name is Thomas Dexmier. I'm the AVP for Enterprise Solutions and Technology at HTC VIVE for EMEA. I'm based in France, hence the accent. I've been with the company for 13 years, and I used to be the country manager for Australia and New Zealand. At HTC VIVE, we started off as a smartphones vendor, so manufacturing 3G, 4G, 5G smartphones. But in 2016, we decided to evolve and diversify our portfolio and dip our toes in immersive technologies, namely virtual reality. And here we are in 2023 talking about immersive tech and how immersive tech's going to be bridging workflows and adoption in commercial space, and how technology is going to make our life better and easier in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. So I should say, HTC, you're fresh off a double win at the XR Awards earlier this year. We took home 2 awards, the most innovative product and best mixed reality solution. So that's 7 years, not that long, but already making strides and doing well in the industry, which is great to see. So Thomas, let's get straight into that first question. Which industry verticals are you seeing where XR technology is having the biggest impact today?
I'm afraid it would be a very long answer, David, because honestly, pretty much every industry today can benefit from XR. Industries benefiting from XR the most are the ones that require 3D visualization, and where 3D visualization does and can make a difference. That means mostly training and simulation scenarios, design, as well as remote collaborations. And just to name a few, if we talk specifically about verticals, where we see a massive uptake of XR, we can talk about mining, can talk about defense, law enforcement, let's say AEC, automotive and ed tech. Another area is pretty obviously healthcare. The entire medical field is the perfect example where XR can actually make massive impact, because everything from nurse training all the way through to neurosurgery, down to patient rehabilitation, on the other hand, can be carried out in XR. And in fact, to give you a practical example, NYU Langone in the US leveraged a whole bunch of advanced technologies, including XR, and it resulted directly in drastically improved patient outcomes. But as I said before, all industries really do benefit from XR. It's not just medical. Anything where visualization is critical can help totally change the actual landscape. We're still at the start of what immersive technologies can achieve, but we have partners across just about every single vertical you can think about today, because the possibilities are limitless.
Yeah, it's great to see the industry actually move into a period where we're seeing these great tangible benefits. The ROI is there and happening today across many verticals, as you mentioned there. Maybe, Thomas, you could share some examples, though, where you're seeing companies, where they've effectively integrated a VR technology into those workflows that we sort of briefly touched on, and where that's really led to improved efficiency and outcomes.
Sure. I mean, if we stick with the healthcare and the medical world, and you look at what University College London's been doing with a platform called RUVR, medical professionals are now training on complex techniques in VR, whilst minimizing really the risk and maximizing their learning opportunities and learning outcomes. And one of the biggest challenges for this crowd was students have to wait for there to be a live scenario available, namely in the context of healthcare. Usually we're talking about an actual patient in need, and that carries a lot of risk. Now, at any time and from any location, students can remotely access a variety of content from on-demand sessions, live lectures, and even surgery. So that significantly does reduce travel and time constraints. And because it's virtual, well, there's no patient at risk. So UCL was able to triple the number of students in training, whilst seeing a significant increase in learning retention and engagement. There's obviously time and money saved on travel, and obviously a reduction of carbon emissions. So the thing is, whilst we see that hard skills training is a no-brainer, there's enough evidence today that hard skills training do benefit largely from virtual reality and immersive tech in general. It does open huge opportunities for effective soft skills trainings as well. And we still refer to, I'm sure you've seen that PwC study about the effectiveness of VR soft skills trainings, but it did actually find that VR trained employees typically complete their training modules 4 times faster than classroom learners, and 1.5 times faster than e-learners. There's also nearly 4 times more emotionally connected with the content, which means that in turn they will be much more confident in doing the task that they're supposed to do once they've learned it in VR. And that study just shows that about 3 times more confident to act on what they've learned in virtual reality compared to traditional learners.
Yeah,
we've also got a lot of if we shift away, from medical, we've seen lots of examples where manufacturing companies, for example, have been able to speed up some of their internal processes. Like we have one division in Ford that used XR to plan the layout of their warehouse and have all their international colleagues test functionalities and all the features and of this new warehouse without even traveling. And that was during peak COVID, so they didn't really lose any time. That was a great win for them. Another one that we always like to refer to is the good old Bell helicopter case study that we've worked on together with them, where they've been able to save millions of dollars in prototype production costs and create a full-scale model in 3D of an aircraft in just 6 months, where it usually takes 5-6 years to do that.
Wow.
Another one would be, I've got one more that I think is kind of striking, is a Swiss train builder called Stadler. They've actually been developing new trains for the metro of northeast of England, and instead of going through the one-to-one live mock-up of the cabin, they did everything in virtual reality. So obviously much more cost-effective, but much quicker in getting feedback from the drivers. So it's easy now, as opposed to having to physically change the layout of the cab. Now it's as easy as just moving things in a 3D environment, and then you can carry on with your testing on the spot.
There'll be a lot of organisations watching today, Thomas, thinking, I don't operate in the train space or the health space or any of the other examples you kind of mentioned. I guess I want to get to the key fundamentals. What are the considerations those kind of businesses should keep in mind when they're selecting these VR, the hardware and the software to ensure that seamless integration between what they're buying and their existing workflows?
Oh, it's a really good question, because regardless of the size of the organization, they've all come to a position at some point where they've asked themselves the right questions in terms of, virtual reality is more than just a beautiful piece of kit that you put on and it magically works. So one thing that these organizations need to keep in mind is that they will have to address a wide variety of stakeholders to subscribe to the program and adopt XR as part of their digital transformation. At VIVE, the 3 main groups of users we have in mind when we design a product and a new solution are your end user, your IT managers, and your, let's call them facilitators or trainers. But if you talk about number one, end user, they need a headset that are, headsets are fairly lightweight, pretty small, compact, comfortable to wear, well balanced with high visual fidelity, nice, great immersive spatial audio, which is what we broadly refer to as the hardware specs of the package. It's important that they feel safe in the headsets they're using. They want the peace of mind that the hardware is easy to sanitize, easy to clean. So that is something that is effectively delivered by the quality of the hardware that they will test and they will invest in. Once they're happy with that as an end user, then comes the next group. And this is quite, it's fundamental to get them on board from the get-go. And that's your IT managers. And our job here as manufacturer is to give them the tools that they need to do their jobs properly in terms of enrollment and onboarding of the headsets, management of the fleet, and we're talking remote management now because people want to use these headsets online as opposed to using them offline, not connected to a network, and therefore kind of lacks the impact that you have when you've got the ability to work online. Enforcement of your IT policies, cyber security, ISO, standard compliance, you name it. So let's not forget, and this is something that you and I were talking about before we started off, let's not forget that XR is still kind of new for some and most IT teams. And that can create concerns and friction about all of the above. So that's why we've developed, and recently, a few weeks back, we've launched VIVE Business Plus. Business Plus is an enterprise level web-based platform that provides all the tools for IT managers to remotely control, onboard, enroll their fleet of VR devices, specifically the XR Elite and the VIVE Focus 3. An MDM integration then treats all these devices like an Android headset, and that allows IT teams in turn to run batch config, batch updates, set their permissions, and making it easy to handle fleet management, whether we're talking about small, medium businesses that have 1 to 10 headsets, or large corporate organizations that are rolling out 500 to 1,000. Group 3 is your facilitators and the trainers. So let's make sure that you give them all the tools that they need to manage and handle class management in a smooth fashion. That means having all headsets working in full synchronicity. If you're going to be delivering a course to 20 students in the class, you want to make sure that you've got all the tools to do all your hygiene checks in terms of housekeeping, battery levels, automatic pairing of your controllers, a platform that allows to distribute the content across all headsets. Or you might want to be able to segregate and do different groups depending on what levels or what's in the skill set they're here to learn on the day. And again, at HTC VIVE, we have developed solutions for them. So look at it as an end-to-end solution. Yes, the hardware import is more than important. It's actually critical. But all the enterprise solutions and platforms that will keep this headset afloat in your commercial environment is actually a big thing that people should consider from the get-go, not something that should be baked or bolted on as time goes by and people realize that they've got needs that are growing over time that they can't really catch up with because they haven't baked all these requirements into the initial scope of XR setup.
Yeah, there's a little bit to consider there, which I guess makes partnering with the right organisation really, really important as well on that front to make sure
Yes.
you have support end to end. I do want to pick up on the training and development. You gave an example at the beginning there. Obviously, a huge area of opportunity and one actually where I think a lot of businesses can immediately resonate with training and the cost savings that are associated with training in XR formats, if you like. But perhaps you could give us a bit more insight into how those businesses can effectively create these training programs using VR and what kind of other benefits they can achieve.
The good thing is that the one size fits all doesn't really exist in this world, and XR can be as simple or sophisticated as you like. And the beauty of it is that as long as you can imagine it and you can visualize things, then you can bring it to life in XR and it can be built. So we're seeing a host of, a variety of use cases that range from, clients using self-authoring platforms to create simple modules based on 360 videos as a way to dip their toes into VR. But if on the other end of the spectrum, they want to have access to hyper realistic 3D scan of someone's brain, for example, well, great. All you need to do is, if you got access to the scan, you build an app for it, and you can teleport into the that person's or that patient's brain in 4K resolution with a level of accuracy and precision in the tracking that you couldn't get access to if you were using another medium. So, but again, it's not just hard skills. I think there's a shift in the way people are using virtual reality in the workplace. We've seen everything from HR-based training with empathy through to advanced physics that involve sophistication of haptics feedback and haptic suits and vests, like one of our partners in Australia called Flame Systems, who build advanced training solution and immersive training for firefighters, as well as our own external tracking solution. So you can have an ultra realistic sensation and start building what we call muscle memory, because by what people usually refer to as kinesthetic learning, you learn by doing, and then you become more efficient at doing the task once you're on the job. But VR does not necessarily mean you have to be an expert in Unity or gaming engines like Unreal. You can start with 360 content, stereoscopic visit of a warehouse, for example, that you can then deliver through high resolution headset like the VIVE XR Elite, to start giving people the impression that they belong to that space. They effectively engage with the content in a way and form that they can only achieve through virtual reality and XR. But what is actually critical across all the success stories that we've seen is that organizations that are successful are the ones that are committed to it. It means, yes, it's important to choose the right hardware partner, to select the right platforms to do your content management and delivery and whatnot. But at the end of the day, there's no point in doing things in half measures. So what I mean by that is having things like a very clear roadmap of content that will drive the right user behavior and incentivize your users to keep on coming back to this new medium to get training done, i.e. virtual reality, because they found it too good the first time, and they really want to keep on coming back to it. But each piece of content means cost, so that's why it's important for these organizations to have a holistic view of what it is that they want to use virtual reality for. With the budget that they've got, let's make sure that the content plays an important role in that, in terms of again, driving the right behavior for users to keep on coming back to it. Content that has measurable outcomes is quite important as well, because that's how you get subscription and you get buy-in from stakeholders in the organizations as well, to prove, and everybody knows that, but within the organization you want to show that it's not just another game that people will come in, have fun with, take a little bit of learning, and then move on and keep on doing things the same old way. So if you want to change the mindset, you want to make sure that there's enough motivation for people to keep on coming back to it, and that big ecosystem includes content, and content is key. And solutions that we create, from hardware to platforms and the variety of enterprise service, professional services that we've got, are effectively the enabler of these next generation experiences. So content is key, and having a clear roadmap is critical to me.
Thomas, you mentioned cost there. Obviously, we know every technology buyer's probably top of their sort of agenda is the costs and the budgets they have to manage. How can organizations really think about that return on investment you spoke about when it comes to incorporating VR technology into their business, into those workflows? What does that look like?
Again, depends on how they're using it and what they're using it for. But if you're looking at things like we mentioned before with UCL or NYU Langone, anything that's hard skills based, you can easily measure the outcome. And by outcome, we mean the return on investment, by having someone spend X number of hours in the week being trained in virtual reality, not having to travel to a training site, etc., etc. For large organization, what we've seen is that it usually takes time to deploy XR solutions that will actually be accessible to the entire workforce. And therefore, we've seen people look at benchmarking what we would refer to as a VR-based group as opposed to a non-VR-based group. So, and by doing this staggered rollout of the tech, which is naturally what happens when you are going to engage significant budgets to cover the entire workforce over time, you as an organization will be able to evaluate how much of a return on investment you're getting by comparing groups that get access to different mediums when it comes to training. Then you've got another example would be organizations that rely on livestock, for example, like the train freight industry. Cost savings by not having to put an entire train out of commercial service, again, are fairly easy to calculate. The other thing that I think people should keep in mind as well is just the user satisfaction. It's priceless when you, as a training manager, and that's feedback that we've had from some of our partners, to see that people now are enthusiastic about getting trained, getting upskilled by using all these immersive technologies, because it is much more engaging than the behavior that some of the training modules have been driving over the past decades, with compliance on a web-based training where all you got to do is read things and click next and hoping that you'll score your 80% to comply. With virtual reality, it's more of a self-driven kind of learning, and this one is quite hard to measure, but the satisfaction on your end user's face is usually something that people should effectively consider if they haven't seen it in action.
Fantastic, and of course that satisfaction plays into that employee experience, doesn't it? Which we know is so important in today's job market.
Yes.
To attract and retain those employees. So, Thomas, we're coming towards the end of the session. I want to kind of get a sense of what you're looking at coming down the line, what you're looking at from a future perspective, in terms of XR technologies and how they continue to evolve. What do you foresee in terms of integration with different industries and workflows over the coming 1 to 2 years? What are you excited about? What are you looking at down the line?
There's a few things that we are all very excited about. The first one is solving problems, right, and making life easier. And we've done it, over time by, say, if you look at a very a simple example for you to consider is the VIVE Focus 3. So VIVE Focus 3 is a standalone headset that we've designed specifically for the B2B use cases, right? So it works now and it's been adopted quite widely across a number of industry verticals. Since we launched that product in 2021, we've kept on making that product proposition and that value proposition better over time by adding accessories, adding new sensors, obviously improving firmware, improving hand tracking, delivering enterprise solutions, as we discussed before, for mobile device management, whether it's using HTC proprietary solutions or third-party stuff like Microsoft Intune, which is quite widely spread across global organizations. So we keep on making that value proposition better and better over time, rather than launching new products every year. But we get to a point where there is a breakthrough in the technology when 5G and advanced networks come together with immersive technology. And that's what I'm personally extremely excited about. It's the combination of all these tech to eventually become one, specifically with 5G. And that takes me back to what we were saying in the intro. Our DNA is mobility. And having invested so much in immersive technologies, we still have a vision that at some point, XR will be the catalyst for 5G and 6G use cases and vice versa. The reason is in the future, XR devices can become super lightweight because of the low latency and the very high bandwidth of data. So you can start offloading some of the heavy lifting from the CPU and from the GPU that effectively is on board the headset and shift that onto the cloud, because effectively what the headset would be doing eventually will be remote rendering of content that will run off servers on the cloud. But for that to happen, you need 5G to become ubiquitous. You need that extra low latency, and that would make then deployment of the solutions that we spoke about even easier, much more straightforward, much safer as well, because people will start using their solutions on premises. They don't have to sideload confidential content on a headset, for example, for people to be able to visualize a CAD model of the next generation and prototype of a car or an aircraft, for example. So all this confidential information will remain on our clients' closed private networks. And we've actually seen, some of our partners develop and deploy private 5G solutions. And by doing that, you see the synergy that we are building between the hardware, the platform, and the networks, and all together they become one, to eventually deliver immersive, modern workplace technology will look like that. I mean, obviously, probably not as slim and thin as what I'm wearing now, but you get the concept. And we are one of the trusted partners to deliver just that, because at HTC VIVE, as I said, we have expertise and decades of experience with mobile solutions and mobile chips, working with telcos. We can't wait to keep on listening to what the market needs in terms of B2B solutions, their needs in terms of scaling up, because we haven't, and we're far from having hit critical mass in terms of XR hardware deployment. We are getting there, step by step. But once the power of the 5G and future network technologies can actually benefit all these beautiful hardware that we are manufacturing, we are then going into the next phase and the next era of XR devices to eventually leverage immersive workspaces, which is an obvious one to us. Platforms where colleagues from all around the world can actually get together, see each other's reaction when somebody's presenting a PowerPoint or even a 3D model or 3D assets to do design reviews, and have that proper feeling of connection that we don't really have or convey when we do one-to-one or one-to-many type interaction on Teams or just traditional video calls. So we've got a solution for that. It's called Viveverse for Business. You might have heard of it. If not, we'll be talking about Viveverse for Business a little bit more in the near future. But again, we're thinking solution, we're thinking ecosystem, we're thinking how do we make sure that every step of the way we keep on improving our value proposition based on what our B2B clients are asking us to deliver, not us imposing on new tech just for the sake of pushing it. So it's all about humanity. It's all about making life easier, and all this crazy tech coming together. I think we're in for a very exciting next few years and decades around immersive technology and mobility.
I think you're right, absolutely right. It's solving those problems is going to be key, but it's going to be very exciting at the same time. Look, Thomas, thank you so much for joining me and sharing some of your insights.
No, thank you, David. It was great, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. You've been watching me, David Dungay, on XR Trends. If you enjoyed today's discussion, don't forget you could follow all the discussions we've been having on XR Trends with lots of innovative companies like HTC VIVE by using the XR Trends 23 hashtag. That's it from me. See you next time.